If you're missing the 5 emotional intimacy skills that I'm going to talk about in this video, it might be contributing to something I hear a lot from couples I work with in my private practice. A feeling that the spark has gone, that you're living with a friend, not a lover. It's the dreaded roommate phase. That feeling of disconnection is often a sign that there's a lack of emotional intimacy in a relationship. And I happen to love helping people with this aspect of relationships. In this video, I'm going to share 5 ways to improve your emotional intimacy and connection. And the last one is the secret sauce if you're experiencing a lot of conflict or have a partner who avoids disagreements. If we've not met before, my name is Oliver and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist here in Los Angeles. And I love working with couples and families, helping them grow great relationships. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to share 5 really easy skills that will help you improve emotional intimacy. And these are the same skills I teach couples almost on a daily basis that will hopefully start to change how you communicate with your partner. And emotional intimacy is the thing that helps us feel close and connected. It's all about sharing the feelings that you have, not just the yummy ones like I love you, but anger, sadness, fear, and regret too. If you find this useful or want to know more about how to build emotional connection with your partner, check out the 7-Day Relationship Rescue Workbook. It's a free PDF filled with tools and exercises and skills that I teach couples here in my private practice to help them communicate and understand how to grow great relationships. Let's start off by talking about thoughts. It is so much easier to talk about thoughts. Our brains throw up thoughts into our consciousness all the time. And turning those thoughts into words is not nearly as challenging as turning feelings into words. But when you're not talking about your feelings, a relationship can start to feel more like a business transaction. And if you turn to page 4 on the agenda, you'll see that I've proposed that we discuss in this meeting the pickup schedule for our kids and who's going to drop them off at soccer on Saturdays with an alternative weekend proposal. Now, most couples can talk to their partners very easily about their thoughts. I thought last night's episode of Bridgerton was great. Oh, the weather was lovely today, wasn't it? Here's the problem. You can feel really lonely in a relationship when the conversation is all thoughts-based or opinions-based. What really shifts a relationship into closeness and connection is sharing feelings, not just thoughts. So when I'm with a couple who are telling me what's been going on in their week and it's all thought-based, you will hear me say, drop in. And I'm encouraging people to drop into their feelings, start talking about their emotional experience, not just their intellectual experience or their thoughts. I was so moved by last night's episode of Bridgerton. I felt hopeful, inspired, and yearning for more. I mean, that one little tweak makes me feel so much different. It's an invitation, it's closeness, it's connection, it's sharing something very intimate rather than your opinion. Now, I am much more likely to ask someone to drop in when they're hiding their feelings with their thoughts. I feel like you're not listening to me about how much I love Bridgerton. When someone starts with the words I feel, but then they use that or like afterwards, as soon as somebody does that, it becomes a thought. You're trying to talk about your feelings, but the word after I feel actually has to be a feelings word. So if you hear yourself say I feel like or I feel that, you can imagine me yelling drop in. And it's a nudge to remind you to use an actual feelings word. The other key point about hiding feelings with thoughts is that thoughts can be argued with. Feelings, not so much. I did the dishes on Tuesday. No, you didn't. It was Wednesday. First of all, that's really tedious. Second, it's about being right. Being right is different from being in the relationship. I feel overwhelmed and exhausted when I come home and I still have to do the dishes on Tuesday. That's much more likely to get a response that's empathetic rather than argumentative. Talking about your feelings is the key here. Sometimes we hide our feelings by talking about our thoughts that are about the other person. I feel like you're mad at me. That's actually a thought about the other person that's disguising a feeling. I'm feeling concerned about our connection right now. Can we check in about that? It's very different. Describing what you imagine the other person is thinking or feeling often leads to defensiveness. To me, it sounds like I'm being told how I feel or what I think. This kind of mind reading can really shut down curiosity and connection and make someone defensive. But dropping into your own feelings rather than thoughts about the other person is much more likely to invite an open response. Whenever I ask someone to drop in, it makes them think about what they're feeling about the other person. More importantly, takes the focus off the other person. It encourages empathy, curiosity, and separates out your thoughts from your feeling. So tune in is all about listening. It's all about focusing on truly understanding your partner. I describe it along the lines of listening with the intent of giving the gift of being understood to your partner. That's listening to learn. The alternative is listening to lecture, formulating your response with a comeback, witty anecdote, defense argument. And if any of that is going on inside your head as you're listening, you're not really listening, you're thinking about what you're going to say next. Active listening, or listening to learn, can be simple. Acknowledging the other person's feelings. I hear that you are sad. Or go deeper. I hear that you're sad and I'd love to understand more about what's making you sad. Whenever I spot a couple not really listening, I'll interrupt them and ask them to tune in. Listen out for feelings. Even if you disagree with parts of what they're saying, your job is to learn more, clarify, and try and understand. And then we've got to check in. This is the next layer. It's about checking in with what you think you heard your partner say. I feel overwhelmed and exhausted when I come home and I still have to do the dishes. So I might immediately jump in and ask the partner to check in and reflect. So I'm hearing that at the end of the day, you're tired and exhausted and you don't want to do the dishes. That is not exactly what was said. So without the listening to learn, you're left with faulty interpretations and assumptions. Misunderstandings lead to more emotional distance and less emotional intimacy. Checking in is making sure that you are understanding and absorbing the right information. The best way to do this is to ask a question at the end. Is there anything else? Did I get it right? So this is all about tuning into the feelings and then checking in to make sure you're fully understanding your partner. And be open to getting it wrong. Your job is just to understand. Move in. The next one is all about speaking for yourself. In my sessions, only one person speaks at a time, and everyone speaks for themselves, not other people. So couples are notorious for using we statements. And it's not a big deal if somebody's saying, oh, we went out to dinner. But when someone is talking about their feelings or attitudes, beliefs or thoughts on behalf of someone else, it gets a bit messy. We feel that this is such a great opportunity for us to learn and grow. If I hear someone say that, I'm going to ask them to move in, as in move inwards to your own feelings and your own thoughts. Use an I statement. Don't assume you know exactly what your partner feels or thinks. Speaking for the other person doesn't give them any room to share their actual experience, especially if they're avoidant or don't like conflict. So take a minute and think about how you usually start a sentence when you're talking about your partner or your family. Do you say I feel or we feel? I want you to try and remember to move into I. Dig in is all about anger and intimacy. Anger and its related flavors like frustration, irritation, or annoyance are not very conducive to building connection. If I hear someone say, I feel angry or I feel frustrated, you're probably going to hear me yell, dig in. And it's my way of asking someone to go underneath the anger iceberg, because anger often defends against more vulnerable feelings like hurt or fear or sadness. I'm really angry because the dishes aren't done is very different from I feel overwhelmed and alone when I get home after work and there's a huge pile of dishes left to be washed. I'm overwhelmed invites empathy, whereas I'm frustrated is more likely to trigger defensiveness. So yes, you are frustrated, right? And yes, you've got to share that, but don't lead with the anger. Go with the one underneath it. The bonus tool here is related to dig in, and it's called shift in. Words like betrayed, abused, abandoned often contain an accusation. And there is a time and a place for those words, but most of the time there's a similar word that you can use to shift into that has less of an edge while still being authentic. The rule of thumb here that I don't know to be true 100% of the time is if the word that you are using ends with ed, there's a high probability that it's got a bit of an edge or an accusation to it. So betrayed becomes hurt, deprioritized becomes unimportant, abandoned might be inadequate. Shifting into a different word lowers defensiveness and makes a more responsive conversation more likely to happen. That being said, you can't always find a word that works. So this is more of an awareness that sometimes your feelings words will not get the response that you want. Might be because there's a slight accusation in there. Okay, so I hope this was helpful for you. If it was, hit subscribe, like, share, If you're in Los Angeles or West Hollywood and are looking for a therapist to help you with emotional intimacy skills, I'll put the link to make a consultation call with me below.